Thank you for tuning into The Awakening once again. Today I have my lovely co-host with me, Mr. Reggie Whitley.
Gang, gang, gang.
Reggie, how you doing today?
I'm well, and yourself?
I'm pretty good.
Thank you for asking.
So today we're going to talk about something that's going on in the school system and something that needs to go on in the school system, or is it just our school system that's not doing it anymore like we used to? Because when I was in school, I took this class and it was very beneficial to me, and that is home economics. Did you have that when you was in school?
We did not. So they had already taken out of the school system. But we had a class, and this is how I knew that it once existed, because one of the classrooms that we had, it did still have the stove, like the whole kitchen set up, but they just converted it into a regular classroom. So nope, it left us before I got there.
And let me just say, me and Reggie have a big age gap. I think it's
Yes, we do.
I'm gonna let that peace be still. You seen how God just calm that peace down?
He brought I saw on you just a woosa that he brought about you.
Mm-hmm.
A silence.
Yeah. Because what I was thinking, I knew I couldn't say on this podcast.
Hey, you could have said it. You would have caught that smoke on the show. I would have got you all together. I chop down trees and keep walking through the forest.
He is petty, y'all. Just petty for no reason. But okay, let's get back to what the mission at hand, which is home economics. So one of the biggest things that we have in this generation here, these kids don't know how to cook number noodles.
That tickle, huh?
Noodles and what else can I say?
Hot dogs.
Yeah, hot dogs. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt now. They know how to put a good old microwave dinner in the microwave now.
That's giving them the benefit of the doubt.
The benefit of that, they can survive, but they're gonna need a microwave, hunting. They're gonna need that microwave. So one of the things in home economics that I learned, and I feel like the kids nowadays is missing, is sewing and cooking. At first I was gonna add really, raising a child. We didn't have so much of raising a child. You know how in some classes in high school, they do, some of them still do, and I just found this out yesterday through Charlene, that in Texas, they do have classes in where the kids actually take a baby home and learn how to be, learn how to be caretakers of the child. We don't have that in every school district, and we don't have that in every state. We don't have it, period. And I think, some things start at home, but now that we in the decade of women not being at home, working just as much as the father works, these kids missing out a lot. They don't know how to. They survival rate just when it comes to getting. Do you know how to cut on the stove? Do you know how to when the grease get hot? Like all those things we learned in school. We learned at home too, but home economics was the it factor back then. And a lot of kids, and I'm gonna tell you how beneficial it was, because a lot of adults nowadays that do a lot of sewing and a lot of stuff like that learn that in school. Mama didn't teach them. Grandma didn't teach them. Grandma started leaving that decade, the end of my decade, well, 1990s, 2000, they started checking out on stuff like that. We ain't sewing, we buying. They had Amazon then, so baby, they make what? A quilt. Knit. What? Who finna do that when you could just go on Amazon and just buy? But I think that was one. I remember my first shirt that I did in home economics was a ruffle shirt. a white ruffle shirt. Back in days, and the ruffles are back in, ain't that so?
Ain't that, you come back around.
Yeah. And so I think that they need to hurry up and put home economics back in school. Cause honey, I'm worried about this new millennium. These babies ain't gonna be able to, grandma used to can knit up a blanket real fast. Oh, you cold, baby. Oh, before you leave grandma's house, you gonna have you a knitted blanket. Before the night ends, she probably start on in the morning. Bring me them quilts. Bring me that. And the thing is, they used to use old clothing. Like what we toss away and what we don't want, they used to use old clothes. They would get them scissors, cut it up in patches, cut it up in pieces, and get the knitting and sewing, and bam, there you go, a whole blanket. I think y'all missed out on a lot.
I want
Do
to
you
say
know?
something about that. And it's almost a pivot from home economics, but we definitely gonna come back to it when to talk about it. But I'm just sitting here thinking, like, what are we gonna leave our children and our grandchildren? I want those who are parents, because I'm not one, and those who are grandparents, because how can I be? To think about that. What are we leaving our children and grandchildren? Because I'm sitting here listening and I'm thinking about how good, it's good because, of course, some people who are listening have already answered. I'm going to leave them my business. I'm going to save some money and leave it to, all that's cute and it's good. Please, it's very good. It's necessary. That's something that they didn't really do back then. So kudos. But the thing is, now, what are we going to leave them like mementos or um, those sacred keepsakes? Because I'm listening, some people who have quilts, they have quilts from they're older, and like my grandmama made me this quilt, and when I was a little girl, and they passed it down. So, and it's not just quilts, but it's just stuff like that that it just warms the heart, especially when it is like one of those things where we use old clothes. I've seen people, but now they have to go out and pay people to do it. And it's very few people who know how to do it. They go out and they pay people to, um, make this, this is your grandmama's old clothes. And we made a quilt out of her old clothes. Or she made a quilt out of her old clothes and gave it to you. There's something sentimental there. And we don't have that anymore. So many people have gotten out of that, even older people. Older people now ain't trying to sit down and make a quilt. Older people are not trying to sit down now and create stuff to leave to people. We have gotten so into the hoopla of stuff that we set that kind of stuff aside. And I think that that is such a disservice to the child because the thing is, money runs out. Um, unless of course you multiply it, because money don't run out for us. You know what I'm saying? But that money, it can only go so far. So it can only fill so many holes. It can fill holes of paying your bills, that's great, we need it. It can fill holes of buying you a house, that's great, we need it. And all that kind of stuff. But it doesn't fill holes of the memories, you know. And so I really think that people, that's just something I just thought about. What are we leaving our kids? What are we leaving our grandkids? Besides trauma. But we ain't talking, I ain't gonna,
And generational curses.
you know, but we ain't here to talk about that. We're here to talk about home economics. But that's just something I wanted to bring up because getting out of that has, I won't say it has damaged the children. It hasn't damaged them getting out of stuff like that, creating stuff like that and giving it, but it has deprived them of um, those really sacred keepsakes. And I think that that's something that people should really take into consideration. It's one thing to buy a thing and pass it down. It's just something special to make a thing. It doesn't have to be a quilt, like I said earlier, but it's just something special in making a thing and passing it down. That's just something I want to, and even buying. People don't really do the baby blanket thing anymore. People don't really do the baby pillow when your baby is born with a little baby pillow. thing anymore. So that's just something I just thought about. It just dawned on me, like, wow, we don't do that anymore. We don't have that anymore. Um, so I just wanted to say that. But you can go back. We're talking about home economics, though.
And yeah, because in school, you teach the kids. They taught us, how to cook. They taught us how to bake. They taught us. I feel like some really good bakers, some really good seamstress, excuse me, came out of uh my class. As far as in classes around me that graduated, a couple of years before and after me. Before me, because I know a couple of people I can name who has baking skills out this world. Like they can bake up some stuff and cook up some stuff, and you'll swear, "Oh, grandma did that." And it takes me back to the whole Christmas and holiday time when the grandparents, when you got that favorite dish. Everybody don't know how to cook macaroni and cheese.
My
Let's just
God.
let's just get that clarified right there. And please, for the life of me, everybody do not know how to make a sweet potato pie. Grandma's sweet potato pie.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about the one that you can eat ice cream with. And people don't usually eat ice cream with grandma's sweet potato pie. But it be so good. And them cakes, the cakes that grandma makes, we don't have that no more. And it breaks my heart that, I feel like where we are now, since women are working, they need to bring it back. They need to bring it back. They need to uh, help this generation become better at being able to be accessible to do certain things or have knowledge to do certain things. I know it's not always on the schools, but like I said, it's not like it was back in the day. Parents, you had one parent that was going to work and the other parent at home, or you had grandma keeping the kids instead of going to daycare, where the kids can learn certain things. We don't have that no more. So home economics back in school would be such a wonderful thing for this generation because they don't have nothing to do. Just think if you was to have instead of investing in an iPhone 14, you invest your kids in a sewing machine to make their own clothes and to do it's things that they can benefit off of. I remember when I stopped working for a while in 2019. And I was like, what can I do? You know what I did? I upholstered my whole couch. You remember that? You remember sending you pictures of that?
I think so.
I did my pillows over. I did my curtains. I did everything. And I was like, oh, I still got it. And I was so excited because I learned how to sew in home economics. And instead of going out buying stuff, I bought the material, but just to sit at home and make it, my kids was amazed when even the ones that come, they was just amazed at how I had did that. They was like, how did you learn how to do that? Home economics. And shout out to Miss Briggs. Oh, Miss Briggs, Miss Briggs. Miss Briggs was the it teacher back up in Greenville High back in my days. So I say this to say we need to get with the school boards and bring it back.
So I feel like you've done a whole podcast yourself. Um, so let's backtrack some. Let's have a discussion here because so we cannot because you did say a lot. So I'm trying to figure out like what to bring. I have a lot to say. I would like to piggyback off of something. But one of the things that I know that one of the reasons I researched, one of the reasons why, and it's like the number one reason why home economics was taken out of schools is because of the budget. They said that it was not in the budget. Now, that is debatable, of course, because even now, what I look at, because I've done so much research into schools, schooling, the school structure, curriculum, school curriculum or curricula, and all of that stuff, how the school is laid out as far as salaries and all those breakdowns, people in charge of things. And that is why I say that it's debatable. I can see why home economics can be a costly course because look at all that you have to have. You know, um, with the regular class, you pretty much need a book and a teacher. Everything else is already there. You know, you have the desk, you have the classroom stuff. I'm not including that, like the desk, the board, the markers. I'm not including that because you have in all classes. But the primary thing that you have to get and get repeatedly are the books and the teacher. Home economics, you and of course the test papers and stuff and workbooks. Home economics, you need the book, you need the teacher, you need the food, you need the sewing machines. There's a lot that you need. Even when you think about a computer course, computers are not cheap, but it's still cheaper to do a computer course than a home economics course. Um, so I can see why they would say home economics is not in the budget. Also, I know very well that many states don't give their schools a lot, nor do they give them enough. And some schools do struggle with that. But I also know that people at the top are getting paid bukus upon bukus of money. I also know that when they want to find the money, they find it every single time. So I understand why it was taken out, but I don't understand because I'm gonna acknowledge your excuse. I'm gonna acknowledge your reasoning, but then I'm gonna tell you why I don't fully agree with it. Because anything that you want to find the money for, schools, you find the money for. Your paint might be chipping, but you're gonna give everybody an iPad. But I got that with a grant. Okay, you find a grant for home economics, or find a grant for something else and allocate that money toward home economics. There's so many ways to look at it, and I agree. It is something. The reason why I said all of that is because it is something that is indeed needed back in the schools, even from even because I never took home economics, but I understand some of the things based on what you just said, based on the things that I've read and heard that have been taught. But there's even more than that that needs to be taught. We need to have classes in schools, especially high schools, about like financial literacy, how to write a check, how to balance your books, how to pay your bills, how to about phone companies. I work for an insurance company. You will be surprised at the young people who are just getting their car insurance. They don't know a thing. And so I have to sit down and literally explain to them front to back the ins and outs of car insurance because they don't know about car insurance. They don't know about the legalities. They don't know about comp and collision, the deductibles, and how that works, the states with personal injury protection or PIP. They don't know about all that kind of stuff and they've lived there and it's always been there, but nobody taught them. I even have adults, grown people who don't know about it. And that brings me to the point of people will say, well, it starts at the house, which is true, but how can they teach it in the home if they don't know it themselves? Everybody
Mm,
don't know how to cook.
mm.
And it's not that people hadn't been taught. Let's take, for instance, I always use this for an example, faxing, sending a fax. I'm okay with computers. I'm not good anymore because boy, they have passed me, and I don't want to keep up. But I'm okay with computers. But there's something about sending a fax. I've never known how to send a fax. I've had people teach me. I've had people walk me through it. I've had people literally sit me down and walk me through, and they're like it's so simple. Something in my mind cannot grasp the concept of how to send a fax. It's
I just can't get
weird
it.
to me. Yeah, I've never been able to get it. And so it's one of those things where I was like, okay, whatever. Thank God people don't really fax anymore, so I don't have to worry about it. But I use that for an example because you can teach a person, or at least try to teach a person how to cook. You can walk them through because somebody might say, well, if we never took home economics out, then the parents would know how to cook. Not necessarily. There are some people who watch the video on how to bake a cake. They follow the steps, and somehow their cake still messes up. Their cake still falls, their cake still don't taste right, and they follow the steps. So I go back to, even if it was attempted to be taught to mama, mama might not have gotten it. Dad might not have gotten it. And now the child is not going to get it because their only dependency was mama and dad teaching me. They didn't get it. This is why we need the schools to teach stuff like that. Teach stuff about, we have so many people who their debt to income ratio is ridiculous because they are so in debt. So you can't expect them to teach their children how to, consolidate or get rid of debt, avoid debt. Um, can't expect them to teach their children about debt to income ratio and how that affects you and all of that stuff. This is why we need schools to teach this kind of stuff, because where there's a lack in the homes, that is what school is for. If there was no need for, if it weren't for them to work together, you wouldn't have both. Either you will have all children going to boarding school and they just stay there until they go home for the summer and they just learn at boarding school, and everything they learn is at boarding school, everybody. Or you will have everybody doing homeschooling. There's a reason why we have a mixture, because it has to work together. What is taught in the homes is sharpened in school. What is taught in schools is sharpened at home. What is missed at school, taught at home. What is missed at home, taught in school. And school should be the place, because the purpose of school is to prepare and educate children for their future, for their adulthood. That's all a part of adulthood. Unfortunately, we have had people going into the school system over the course of many, many years, about 30, 40 years, and twisting it and changing it and reshaping it so that we have now all of these math classes teaching on stuff that we'll never use again. All these
Hello.
English classes, which are great. I can't even say nothing bad about English. All of these geography classes, a lot of stuff that we don't necessarily need. Am I saying we don't need the class? No. But there are certain lessons that are taught, and it's like, you can be taking this time to teach on something else. It's like they put everybody on the same path. Everybody has to learn the same thing. Everybody has to learn. And there is no creativity in schools like it used to be. And there are very few areas of life lessons. I was doing an application to start a school, and I'm still going to do it one day. But one of the main things that I focus on is having a class called Life Lessons. And it was because we don't have courses like home economics anymore. So I wanted to, and I wrote it all up to bring it back with a twist, because we need, we blame so much on parents with the children, but the schools are somewhat responsible too, because schools also help raise children. And so when stuff isn't taught, we take all this out, but we are preparing them for the future. We're preparing them for adulthood. And then we send them out, and then we looking like, now, why they didn't make it? They were so smart in school. Why they not making it? Because school taught them certain academics, but it didn't teach them certain life lessons. And they can excel in math, but they cannot excel in life when they need to excel in both. We're not looking at the whole child. We're looking at a part of the child. School is not just for the children's minds and brains. School should be focused on the whole child. That's an actual term, guys. The whole child. And so don't make me go over there and get mad, because I got it. It ain't never too far.
You
I
preach.
might break at it and give them a praise. But yeah, we need schools to go back to focusing on the whole child, not just focusing on, because every child's journey is not the same. Not just focusing on teaching them these lessons so they can pass the test. Don't get me started on Common Core curriculum, because Common Core literally says, and I've talked about this before, I think a few seasons ago, Common Core, it literally, I've read the curriculum. It says it is for memory, not mastery. We are not teaching children to master. We're teaching them to memorize so they can pass the test at the end of the week, so they can pass the test at the end of the 9 weeks, which is why we teach it all to them and then shove it back at them at the end of the 9 weeks. And then we shove it to them at the end of the year so they can pass the state test, which I think need to be done away with, because what is the purpose of a state test? Um, It holds so many people back. And I think it is an unfair judgment of a lot of children's education because some children just aren't good test takers. And then it's just dumb that we still have them. But this is why we do it, so they will memorize this stuff so they can pass these tests. But when they go out into the real world, they might have some of this knowledge still, but they don't have the core of what they really need, which is things that would be taught in home economics, which is things that would be taught in in classes like life lessons. These are more so courses that are needed for the character development and growth of children. We want to grow their minds, but we don't want to grow their character. We don't want to expose them to other things and teach them how to learn and how to cook and how to sew. But nobody's sewing anymore. You don't know what experience, what somebody's going to go through and experience in that class, and it sparks something. And they be the next Chanel without the controversy, because you know she wasn't that good of a person. They'll be the next Chanel. They'll be the next Louis Vuitton. They'll be the next Ralph Lauren. And so this is why we need stuff like that to expose children, expose them to different things, teach them different things, not just the women, because a lot of times people associate home economics with girls, which is why I wouldn't want to call why I didn't call that course home economics, because they're associated with girls. But men need to learn this stuff too. Boys need to learn this stuff too, and that's what I have to say about it. I I agree with Chantel. We should go to the school boards, um, but the school boards only have so much power. So I believe in rallying up and going to the Department of Education if necessary, because until people really take their children's education and learning experience seriously, they're going to keep doing what they're doing. And a lot of people are not privy to all the stuff that is being done in schools that is unnecessary and that is just uncalled for and not right. And we're so used to sending our kids to the bus and seeing them when they get home. And there's a lot that's going on in the schools that is so unstructured, outdated, and unnecessary. And talk about a waste of tax dollars. It's a big waste.
And then not only that, it goes, like you said, a bunch of the stuff they're not even using. I can remember some of the stuff that they started switching up with me back when I was in school. I'm like, bruh, I had to go through all them classes just to not use or even think about any of it to this day. Like, how am I benefit? What is it doing for me? That's just like going to get a college degree in something you never get a job for. That was a waste of time. And you got to pay the tuition. You got to pay school. You got student debt. You got money that you got to pay back for something that you didn't even learn. And so it just opens up so many doors for that, we got to really think about that. And even like you say, with the boys nowadays, and the reason why boys know how to cook better than girls nowadays, because it's survival of the fittest now. And I can actually say my husband can cook better than me.
My God.
I hate to say it, but he can. He can throw down. And so, but he took home economics as well. And he also watched his mom and grandparents in the kitchen. So he was able to, get that life lesson, which has benefited him, throughout his life. He don't need what he didn't. He do now a wife for anything. And I think it stunts the young men growth. It stunts their growth to me in a way as far as being able to do something on their own. I mean, I had to tell him one time he was gonna throw a shirt away because the button. I said, just sew the button back on. Man, I'll take it to my mom. I don't know how to sew that. You know how to sew a button on a shirt? Like Miss Breeze didn't teach you that? Was you not paying attention? I had to go back to him because back in them days we had the same teacher, so I know. So, but anyway, it just it would be so helpful that the school looks at certain, like you say, lifestyle journeys, lifestyle things, and bring it to the school system and not, even these computers. I'm all for computers. I'm all for new learning. I'm all for it. But yet and still, it's like we spending so much money in technology that what if it crash? Will they be able to maintain? Oh, if the cell phone break, will they be able to maintain anything? I mean, what can they do without the electronics? And that's where we taking it to.
And
Like
let me say this
hmm
to that point, because I was so shocked when, so of course I ain't trying to read you on that, but I'm sure when you were in school, they didn't have like calculators. Y'all actually have to do the work on paper.
Oh, we have calculators, baby. I'm not that far gone.
No, I'm saying y'all didn't use. I'm working up. I'm getting somewhere.
Okay, okay.
So I remember when they started using calculators when I was in school. We had to wait until middle school or high school before we got calculators in math. Now kids are in like second, third, fourth grade using calculators. And they can use calculators on their tests, on their work. The lesson is this is how you put it in the calculator. Of course, there are some who are still teaching, how to work out on paper and all of that, show your work. But they make it so easy with the calculators. And I'm just doing a progression because at one point you couldn't have them at all. And then you move some years forward, you have to wait until you get them, and you can only use them for certain things. I even remember like some of my classes in school, in high school, were so strict that you can only have calculators for this portion of the test. You can't have it for the whole math test. You can only have it for this portion of the math test. And then you got to put your calculator up, you got to put your calculator down or whatever. But now it's like you can just use it for everything. And so I agree because we'll never go backwards when it comes to technology. This is why I always tell people who are against it, please get forward because no matter what industry you go in, there's going to be technology. However, we still need to know how to do some stuff. And some of the ways that children are being taught is really crippling, especially with the calculators. It's really crippling to them. Now we don't have to write our papers. We can just type them out. Yes, it's more convenient. Yes, we love it. Yes, it's great to be able to do so. And we do need to learn how to type. But we'll never have to write nothing. We type everything. So that means handwriting has gotten worse. That means some people
Look,
don't even know how to write in cursive.
look, that's what I was just gonna say. I seen this TikTok. They said, the woman said, "Don't come for me, baby, when you don't know how to write in cursive." It was too funny.
Because
She had
it's a level of class.
she had to sign some papers, and the woman was like, "Ma'am, this is printed." And she was like, "No, you asked for my signature." She said, "Baby, your signature is in cursive, not plain right." And the woman got mad. She was offended, but it was the truth.
Right.
Like people, and you got it now on technology where you can actually sign like on your phone, or just tap in and sign with your finger, and it's just like, come
It's
on,
a
y'all.
convenience, but it's also a crippler. So that's one of those things where there's a thin line because it's very convenient. I use it. I even have, I didn't get to the point now, girl. I got me an iPad with my Apple Pencil, and you should see me. I be just writing on my iPad. I love it. But when you take my iPad away, when that bad boy break down, guess what I know how to do? I know how to take out my pen and paper. And
Hello.
so there's a thin line there, there's a convenience and everything, but if used improperly, it is very much so a crutch. And then going back to what you were saying about even the men, although I brought it up, then you brought it up about the boys in the class. Classes like that, it breaks toxic masculinity because
Mm-hmm.
there are some men who feel like they shouldn't know how to cook because they're a man,
That it's a wife duty or a woman's duty to
and
watch.
some of them ain't even married. So what
Hello,
what you doing? You gonna eat out
un,
every day?
un,
You ain't
un,
never gonna.
unhusbanded. Did I just make up
So
a word?
you did. It's okay though.
Unaware
But
wives
we
and
need
unhusbanded.
to we need to do better with that. And then I agree with you. You actually said what I was gonna say about how it would be good to have. You mentioned something about how it'd be good to have. You didn't say these words, so basically, um, like high school, somewhere like college, as far as like you choose your path. But the thing, so I was thinking about that because I was going to say it and I wrote it down and then you mentioned it. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's what I was going to say. Then I thought about the purpose of high school, well, just school before college, is to expose. When we take this stuff like home economics and stuff out, we don't expose the children to possibilities. And that look like we got on the same color. My God, we didn't even try. But it exposes the children to, well, maybe I want to grow in this. Maybe I want to grow in that. Um, but when you are not exposed to it, and we talked about this on another show, your mind can only go as far as what you've been exposed to. And so school is supposed to plant the seed. Thank you for planting the seed of writing. Some people knew that they wanted to be authors because of their high school teacher. Thank you for planting the seed of speaking a different language. Some people fell in love with the second language because of high school. Thank you for planting the seed of computers and science. Some people knew they wanted to be doctors and chemists because it took chemistry and different science courses and biology. But does it have to be limited to only those things? I know we can expose to every aspect, but do you really think that every student is going to go down a path of chemistry, physics, um, English, all that kind of stuff? Some may go down the path of debate, which has also been taken out of a lot of courses. We don't have courses like this in schools anymore, in most schools, especially in the South. Debate and like the cooking and stuff like that. So this is why a lot of people they go to college. This is another one of those reasons people go to college and they don't know what they're going for because nothing in school touched them. Nothing in school stuck with them because maybe that thing is one of those courses that have been taken away because the budget wasn't there. And I think we have to do a better job. School systems have to do a better job of finding money, finding ways to bring in different areas or aspects of exposure to children so that it really helps the betterment of that child's future. It's good for the economics, but we need to know more. And even if it's not something that they want to go into with their life, they still got to know how to fix a meal. They still got to know how to balance their checkbook. They still need to know. I know many people don't write checks anymore, but if they go to an apartment and you have you young, you get your first apartment, you have a couple of options. A, you can get a money order. B, you can write a check. C, you can pay online. Okay, you pay online, you might have to pay a $15 fee. So now every month you're gonna pay an extra $15 because nobody taught you how to write a check and you ain't even ever heard of a money order. These are things, should they be taught in the household? Absolutely. But schools should also have something to teach because you're teaching everything else. Schools should be teaching this kind of stuff because it's necessary. Even if it's not something that you go into career wise, a lot of this stuff everybody is going to end up needing. You're going to need to learn about your credit. Why isn't this taught in schools? We just need to do a better job of making sure that the whole child is prepared for their future after they graduate.
That's it. That's it. That sums it all up. Because we dropping the ball on the ball is being dropped in so many areas, and we wondering why this generation or the generation that's next to come is so off balance and off key because we're not teaching them all that they should know. It's like sending a child out there saying you can only use one hand. Come on now. Don't limit them to nothing. Give them all that they need, and just go from there. And so the kids need stuff like that. Home economics is needed. It is very well needed in schools. And y'all got the money, like you say, the budget is in there. It's like what you gonna risk though. And I understand partner up with some of these business. We partner up with everything else. Look at Jackson State. Look what old Deion Sanders did for GSU since he been there. Walmart. Hello?
Mm-hmm.
Walmart is helping him build a new stadium.
And I don't think that it's because of his name has something to do with it. His name has something to do with it. But um, again, if people were to get together, do the research, find um, find people, do the research and go out together, find people,
Oh,
ask around,
yeah.
and really, I mean, go to because to me, elected, we've talked about this before when we talked about the school, how not enough elected officials focus a lot on education. But go to these elected officials, go to some of these companies. We can't use it as a crutch. I ain't got no kids, so I don't know why I keep saying we. We can't use it as a crutch, and he does it again. That these people are famous, these people are well known, and all of that stuff, because people want to help different schools. They just don't know where to go. They don't know to come to you because you ain't put yourself out there. You haven't done any, put out that you are interested in this program or anything like that. So if people can come together and listen, it's just very much so needed. Um, it is very much so needed because we have focused so much on the left brain, which is the logical side, the analytical side, that we don't really focus on the right brain, which is the creative side of the child. And now children are just not benefiting fully. And it's going to keep going, which is horrible because I brought it up because we have so many creative children now, more creatives, I think, now than before. And if we continue, I don't know if I'm frozen.
You are. That's what I was
So
just
I
going
don't
to put
know
in the chat.
how to play that off. Oh, let me cut my hotspot back on. I mean my Wi-Fi back on. So if we continue, I know y'all just saw me frozen. I don't know how to fix it. It'll be okay. If we
Just put it out.
if we continue, what was I gonna say? That thing threw me off. But yeah, we just need to come together and focus. That's what I was about to say. If we continue at this rate, because we're always looking, we say this generation is, and then put some negative there. It's what people like to do. But if we look at it, let's be honest. If we look at it and we keep going down that road, we have more creatives that are born now than before. Um, but we don't focus on the creative side as much on the child in schools. And if we keep going down this road, how can it get better? It has no other choice but to progressively get worse. It has no other choice but for things to get worse for generation after generation after generation, because we have just turned the blind eye. We've let them keep going on and doing how they do it instead of shifting it and changing things in the education system. And it's going to progressively get worse because now the child that didn't learn about it in school, that didn't grasp it when mama taught them, is going to have kids. Now they are at 5% because they didn't grasp what mama taught them and they didn't have another option. School didn't teach them. They didn't grasp what mama taught them because mama probably was hollering. Mama probably didn't have a whole lot of patience. Mama probably ran them out, or daddy, I ain't gonna put it on the mamas, probably ran them out the kitchen because they wouldn't get it fast enough. Daddy got anxiety, so he don't want the child to iron. So you can't iron your own clothes. We'll iron them for you. So now the child never learned how to iron. So they out here at a 20%, knowing 20% of all this, and then they have a child. And then it's gonna continue because the child isn't gonna learn in school. You know very much so less than your parents because you never learned. So you can't teach your child. So when you are at 20%, your child is at 15, and it's gonna keep going down. Their child is gonna be at 10. Their child is gonna be at 5. The next child is gonna be at 0. They ain't gonna know nothing. So somebody has to step up, and I do strongly believe it starts in the education system, because those people, for one, are trained to teach. They are licensed to teach, and we all know that one parent that just is not able to teach their child, can't even help their child with their homework. We all know. So we need the
With
schools to step up.
it's right here, because I'm telling you, I have to Google. You talking about math homework? We ain't even gonna. I'm gonna put it out there, but you better not answer. How many times I done had to text you and be like, "This girl here what is this answer? Is this correct?
And then what do I say every time? Why is she learning this? What grade is she? I mean, we go through this every single time. What grade is she again? They learning this already? Why is she learning this? What does this have to do with anything? This don't make any sense. They want them to work it out this way. That's dumb. We put so much money. They got money to pay people to shift the curriculum and make math more complicated, but they ain't got the money for nothing else. Because the way we learned it, wasn't wrong with the way we learned it. Now you got to go around the world to get the same message.
Ooh. So with that being said, Reggie,
we're not mad though, y'all.
No, we ain't mad. We just irritated. I'm irritated. I don't know about him. But we want to thank y'all for tuning in today. Thank you, Reggie Whitley, for your kind words once again.
Was I kind? Hey, man.
I had to make a tambourine out of a paper you was preaching, brother.
Because, that's just always my goal. Come on and be kind to the people. Because, I can be a little rough sometimes.
And I just pray they was teaching, that they grasped everything we said today.
Amen.
With them. So with that being said and done, thank y'all so much for tuning in to The Awakening once again. Let's get these kids in some home economics. Let's go to the school, the education board of your state.
Write your people. Go out and vote. Do all that good stuff.
You put that on their radar. Put that in the school system. Because my baby. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for tuning in to The Awakening. Peace out.
Goodbye.